I just want to do intros. I'm Alice.
David.
And this is Todd. And Jillian is our gracious volunteer. So I want to introduce you to Dave, who's acting, and he is a hiring manager at a company. Jillian is a volunteer, but she is not acting. She is speaking from her actual experience as a recruiter. So Dave, will you tell us a little bit about a problem you're facing right now?
I'm trying to find the right person for this position. Everyone they send me is the wrong fit and takes months of time. By the time I find the person who's a perfect fit, they've taken another job.
All right, so Dave is looking for a new hire to fit and has hired a recruiting agency. And so Jillian, will you tell us a little bit about what your experience has been in the real world?
Sure. So I am very frustrated because every person that I think is perfect that I'm sending to this hiring manager, they're getting very caught up on silly little words that they may use in their resume and very minute details without giving this person a fair chance and getting caught up in their own words.
Keep this down if you want. So Dave hears this and has a realization.
What the heck is going on? There's a disconnect. I need to find a way to find the right person fast.
All right, so we are Decision Aid, which is a service to help you make the best decision possible given a situation, and in this situation it is hiring the right person. So Dave has heard about the service and he's going to go ahead and sign up here. He's going to fill out this sort of Mad Lib type questionnaire in order to sign up for the service. He's a hiring manager and wants to find the best person for the job. So as soon as he's signed up, he then goes through a quick assessment process.
Wow, this is fun, easy, and personalized.
All true. And so once he has gone through this seamless sort of magical assessment process, he then receives a report.
Wow, I didn't know this about myself. Maybe the recruiter was right. I focused on the wrong details of the candidate. What do I do now?
So Decision Aid then provides a whole suite of services that are ongoing support, coaching, training, ongoing assessment that can support Dave as he is looking for, in specific situations when he's looking for a candidate, also potentially in other contexts.
Yes, so a term used here about, the seamless, magical sort of experience. In fact, this isn't magic. There's an enormous amount of research that's been done that actually reveals the biases that affect how people make decisions. Daniel Kahneman won a Nobel Prize, actually. The psychologist won a Nobel Prize in economics for showing not only those biases, but also the the great cost that all of us face as a consequence. They're monetary, they're financial. They're not monetary, but they're also across a whole collection. A lot of that work, though, has remained quite academic. I mean, it's being made available through textbooks, but what we're going to do, and where this is really a powerful service, is we're going to make that work accessible and actionable through a product. And while the example we've given you has been about hiring, the truth is it does extend into a whole collection of other areas. It turns out, for example, that we're inclined to optimism about a number of decisions, and they find out, for example, that people make all kinds of decisions about, for example, home repair. I want to add to this room. I have a budget, and I know what it's going to cost, I know how much time it's going to take. It turns out that, in fact, typically, data demonstrates that it takes much longer and costs much more, and people end up making decisions about those expenditures, leaving themselves with a lot of debt because they've erred through the optimism bias. Online dating is another thing. Turns out that the research reveals that in many cases the people who are right for someone take a while to find, but in most cases our inclination is to actually eliminate very quickly people, and it turns out then that we ended up having, online daters frequently will have eliminated people who were right for them too quickly. So this can help reveal some of those biases. Another place is actually in politics. Even what Frank Bruni today is talking about in a column today, what if we had someone called Donna Trump? What if we would consider that candidate the same way if she were a woman? Similarly, would people consider, would people consider Hillary Clinton the same way if she were a man? If we actually have a chance to, with our tool, change the gender of the same ideas, do we hear those things differently? There are a whole network, a whole collection of different ways. Another example too is even thinking about terrorism. People, we're very inclined to sort of focus lots of our economic resources fighting terrorism, when in fact more people are harmed by their swimming pools, by children falling into swimming pools that are unprotected, than are harmed by terrorism. So you can hear there are enormous kinds of consequences across the board by people making bad decisions, or decisions that are informed by their biases, not through science. And we can offer them across this whole spectrum of different areas, things that will actually amalgamate that information and help them make decisions that are more intelligent and frankly more in line with their own desired outcomes. Not any we desired for them, but rather things that are in line with their own goals. So that is decisioning.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
All right, Lauren. Okay, so I was with you guys yesterday for a while, so this is awesome to see how it's come to life. So just so I'm clear on exactly like what happens behind the curtain, literally. So it sounds to me like the assessment is about enlightening you to understand your biases. Is that correct?
Correct. So the service is to sort of turn over your biases so that you are aware of them. And
Okay.
so the assessment tool would be sort of a combination of a couple of different assessments, sort of empirically proven ways of assessing your biases so that they can be sort of turned over.
But they're also triggered to different match cases. So for example, in our drop-down menu, forgive me for gesturing your face, we have one for you are a hiring manager, you're an online dater, you are, what were the other ones? Here, the other things here? No, here, you.
If you're, I mean, even if you're sort of just curious and want to,
Or you're a voter and you want to make sort of intelligent decisions about policy decisions or about candidates. Does that make sense? Because the questions you'll be asked will vary in accordance with, what your goals are. But the point is, this is all coming out of hard science and rigorously evaluated scientific, process.
So it sounds like the type of person that might go into this is somebody that is maybe more self-aware or open to finding out more about themselves.
absolutely. So we actually spent a good amount of time talking about whether or not we want to sell this to someone who didn't want to know. And the answer was really no, because there can be a lot of also negative, potential unintended consequences of this, and if you're not sort of ready to understand your biases, you might not respond very well to being able to utilize this tool.
But there are also very strong cases for example, employers for this. For example, if there are unconscious biases that are causing them to make decisions against racial minorities, against a certain gender. I mean, there are federal laws protecting against that, and that stuff leaves them, if those things are actually happening under the surface, but end up causing them, once the data is aggregated, causing them to look very suspicious. And with the advent and the rise of data science, that stuff is going to become ever more evident. It actually will be in employers' best interest to hire a service like this, because this will actually help protect them against the kinds of unconscious biases that are informing decisions, but happening underneath.
So it sounds like you could build this out in a way that's either, people are self-identifying a problem, like if you as the employer might say, I can't find anyone, and so that you're seeking this out. But it also could just be around targeting people like through an employer service that says like, hey, everyone should go through something like this. And maybe not waiting until the problem arises.
So, Elliot, what did you like about this? Get back to you.
I love the prototype. It's super weird.
I thought it'd be fun to do it through a band loop, so it's like progressive questioning. Because
Right.
I actually am an engineer, and I know people don't fill out fucking forms. So how do you make it so it's personal and fun, so that by the time they get to like 3 questions, they're like, we have a lot of information to create a very personalized journey for them with like deliverables that they actually want, and they're telling us how they want to succeed. So.
Very good. Yeah, I think it's great that you guys are backing it up with scientific research. I think that's really fantastic and makes for a powerful argument. And I can see this actually being used as potentially the repercussions after a court case where some organization is found guilty of biased decision making, and then someone could say, well, we need you to go through this process. So maybe it's not a paid service, but rather something that is mandated by a court. that
So
can
we
also
thought
be-
about where sort of businesses, I guess we don't have our service map here, but where businesses could come in, because part of the sort of importance is that the personal, like I don't want my employer necessarily to know my exact detailed personal biases, but on a sort of anonymized general scale would be potentially very powerful for an employer, and that the employer could potentially sort of buy parts of our service that are more of like the training, and potentially like I have to, like every hiring manager has to go through a certain number of hours of, you know, this part of our service.
Or if once information is known too about certain hirers, they can also build instead of, I mean, because as she was describing to us, I mean, literally decisions are made about on the basis of whether a person used the word build versus the word create, and that's been a basis by which a very viable candidate has been eliminated, or they've listed one thing on top of another when the other person would have preferred a different chronology, and that's just wasteful, right? So the point is, though, that if once those biases can become revealed, and even if it's done sort of anonymously, there are the opportunities for a single hiring manager not to be placed in charge, but rather these things to be done by committee or whatever. The point is that there are ways in which structures can be created in order to work both for the individual but also for an entity to sort of structure things that will not reinforce these biases but rather undermine them.
And I think we talked about negative view cases where like someone would be using this to protect themselves or like, you know, make sure they're not fucking themselves over. And I think there's also a bunch of cases where you could, as a manager or a company, figure out, I'm going to create a market research group. I should probably have a market research group that matches demographically and also as far as their intent and how they think, the market that I want to tailor my services for. I think in the future, like businesses that think like that, where they're doing market research not based on outside stuff, but inside stuff, that's much more powerful. And this is a tool where it's, in engineering we call it ornamental, which means you can use it in many different ways because it has a single purpose.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Oscars that start in an hour are an interesting case of purpose, but you know, it's not the gesture to be very obvious, but why not?
Thank you guys so much.